She walked into the spotlight of horror, leaving death and fear in her wake. Joanna Dennehy, a name that still chills the blood. Today, we unravel the final chapter, her sentencing, and the legacy that haunts a nation. Peterborough, England. A quiet cathedral city tucked in Cambridgeshire. Nothing special, nothing dangerous, just another British town where people keep to themselves. Where tragedies usually happen somewhere else. But in the spring of 2013, Peterborough would become something else entirely. It would become the hunting ground of one of the most sadistic, manipulative killers the UK has ever seen. Her name was Joanna Dennehy. Before the blood, before the ditches and the dummies left for dead, there were men. Ordinary, lonely, vulnerable. And they all made the same fatal mistake. They trusted her. Victim 1. Łukasz. Łukasz Slabuszewski was 31, a Polish immigrant new to the UK. He came looking for work and maybe someone to love. That's when he met Joanna. He thought she was beautiful, wild, unforgettable, dangerous but exciting. He didn't know she was already planning to kill him. His final message to a friend read, "I've met this amazing girl. She's not like the others." He was right. She wasn't. She stabbed him through the heart. Victim 2. John. John Chapman was 56, a former soldier. He lived in the same shared house as Dennehy, struggling with addiction, alone but polite. He likely didn't think twice when she called him over, didn't suspect a thing. She stabbed him in his chair, again and again, and walked away without a second thought. Victim 3. Kevin. Kevin Lee was different. He had a family, a business. He hired Joanna as a cleaner and couldn't resist her. She was fire, untamed. He knew she was trouble, but couldn't walk away. He didn't know he'd be part of her show. She stabbed him, dressed his dead body in a black sequin dress, and dumped him in a ditch. A statement, a performance. I control you, even in death. Joanna Dennehy didn't kill for money, not revenge, not love. She killed because it made her feel alive, because she wanted to know what it felt like to end someone's story with a smile on her face. 3 dead, and she wasn't done. 2 more men would survive her knife, barely. The spree wasn't over. It was just beginning.
3 men were already dead, and Joanna Dennehy was just getting started. She had tasted it now. Control, power, the thrill of taking a life. But she wasn't satisfied. She needed more, and she wouldn't do it alone. Gary Stretch, 6'7", skeletal and deeply troubled. A petty criminal with low intelligence and a desperate need to belong. He met Joanna in prison, and the moment he laid eyes on her, she became his queen. She didn't need to manipulate him much. He was already hers. Together, they were a twisted pair, the sadist and her worshipper, the killer and her driver. Joanna wasn't trying to hide anymore. She wanted chaos. A cross-country killing spree. She even told Gary, "I want my own murder documentary." She packed a knife. He filled up the tank, and together they hit the road, hunting. March 2013, Huntingdon, Cambridgeshire. A 63-year-old man named Robert Moore stood quietly on the pavement, alone, innocent. Joanna walked up to him, and without a word, plunged a knife into his chest. He collapsed, bleeding in the street. She smiled, walked away. Robert barely survived, but he had no idea who she was. Minutes later, they found another target. John Rogers, a retired dog walker enjoying his afternoon. Joanna struck again, fast, precise, another blade to the heart. And again, somehow he lived, barely clinging to life. 2 men, 2 near deaths, all within 1 hour. What was she after? She didn't rob them, didn't know them, didn't even speak. She just wanted to watch the light leave their eyes, to be there for the ending. And with Gary cheering her on, she was unstoppable. By now, the police had bodies. They had witness statements, survivors, and more importantly, they had Joanna Dennehy's name. The nationwide manhunt had begun. Roadblocks, CCTV scans, phone tracking. But she wasn't hiding. She was laughing. In one chilling clip, Joanna is seen on Gary's phone camera, laughing in the back seat, smiling like a child at play, holding the murder weapon like a toy. She says, "I've killed 3, and I'd do it again." It was fun, like a game. There was no remorse, no fear, only adrenaline. But the spree couldn't last forever. 2 men were barely alive. 3 were already dead. And police were closing in. Joanna Dennehy wasn't afraid of being caught, because for her, the game wasn't over. Not yet. She thought she could keep running, killing, taunting, smiling in the shadows. But the net was closing fast. And on April 2nd, 2013, Joanna Dennehy's spree finally came to an end. They found her in a roadside lay-by in Hereford, alone, calm, still dressed in black with wild hair and that cold, electric stare. She didn't resist, didn't run, didn't scream. She just smiled and said, "Are you here about the murders?" As if it was nothing more than a joke, a prank gone too far. Gary Stretch was also arrested, the towering sidekick, her loyal servant. He didn't fight either, because without her, he had no purpose.
He was just a puppet, and she had already cut the strings. Inside the police station, Joanna told them everything. Not with guilt, not with shame, but with pride. She detailed the stabbings, described the victims, even corrected the detectives when they got it wrong. At one point, she laughed and said, "I killed them because I felt like it. It was fun." Not once did she ask about the survivors. Not once did she say sorry. In a written statement, she declared, "I'm not sorry. I'm not ashamed. I would do it again." She called herself a monster, but a special one. When asked why she kept killing, she answered, "Because it got easier, like a craving." Psychiatrists were called. They tried to find logic in the chaos, but what they found was worse than madness. Joanna Dennehy was diagnosed with psychopathic personality disorder, antisocial traits, and sadistic tendencies. She didn't just lack empathy, she despised it. She told one psychologist, "I know what I am, and I like it." While Joanna grinned behind glass, families were burying sons and fathers. Kevin Lee's wife wept outside the courthouse. Lukasha's mother flew from Poland, silent in disbelief. John Chapman's army friends called it a betrayal of his service. There were no answers, no apologies, only emptiness. Joanna got what she wanted. Her own murder documentary, a nationwide manhunt, a face in every headline. She had become what she admired most, a killer remembered. Not just for her crimes, but for how much she enjoyed them. As the court date loomed, the question wasn't whether she'd be found guilty. It was, would she ever feel anything at all? Because for Joanna Dennehy, murder was not a tragedy. It was entertainment. The trial was swift but brutal. Joanna Dennehy sat in the dock, calm, unrepentant, almost proud. The prosecution laid out the grisly details. 3 murders, 2 attempted killings, a trail of violence that shocked the nation. The judge didn't hesitate. On July 22, 2013, Joanna Dennehy was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order. No chance of parole. No hope of release. She was to spend the rest of her days behind bars. Prison was no refuge. Joanna was isolated, moved between high-security facilities. Her reputation preceded her. Feared by inmates and guards alike, she remained cold and detached, often smiling inappropriately during visits. A woman who thrived on control, even from behind bars. Psychiatrists still tried to understand her, but the darkness inside was relentless. The British public was horrified. How could someone so young, so seemingly ordinary, become a killer like Joanna? Media dubbed her the Black Widow of Petersburg. Books, documentaries, podcasts,
Her story spread far beyond the city limits. Some saw her as a monster beyond redemption. Others, a warning about the dangers lurking behind charming smiles. Joanna Dennehy's crimes left scars that wouldn't heal. Families shattered, communities shaken, a collective fear that quiet towns could hide monsters in plain sight. Her case forced law enforcement to rethink how they identify and track violent offenders, especially women who rarely fit the traditional killer profile. And it reminded us all, evil wears many faces. Joanna Dennehy remains imprisoned, but her story continues to haunt, a chilling reminder that darkness can thrive behind any mask. And some killers aren't driven by hate, revenge, or greed, but by the cold, twisted need to feel alive, to write their own brutal legacy in blood.